We have a jam-packed week full of planetary transits. In this week's astrology, Capricorn season begins, giving us the urge to focus on our goals. Mars and Venus will be active over these next 7 days, enunciating the need to work on our temperament along with relationship scenarios. Mercury will retrograde back into Sagittarius, causing us to review things that needed to be resolved since November. On top of that, there will be a multitude of Mercury retrograde transits this week, allowing us to reevaluate situations that really need our attention. And due to the quality of transits that we have this week, the vibes on the graph are an interesting mix. With all of the Mercury transits occurring this week, we have a lot of mental vibes that will be carrying on throughout the week. In the beginning of the week, we'll see that mental vibe intersect solitude and family and friends. And solitude will also be very present throughout this entire week as well. And this is because of the quality of transits that we have. Mostly we have a lot of hard transits, so there may be moments where we need space to ourselves. However, due to some of these Mercury transits and some of the other stuff that's going on, it may be hard to get that time away. It may be unavoidable to deal with a lot of social situations. Family and friends is also another energy that's going to be present through this week. And so when we get to the 22nd, it's going to connect with mental, more solitude, emotional sensitivity, ambitious vibes, and romantic vibes. With something like this going on, the need for personal space is going to be vital because we're interested in getting things done and taking care of our own stuff. However, it may be difficult again because of the social aspects of this week. So we may experience moments where we feel a little triggered, and we may have a lack of patience because of this when dealing with other people. Also, there's love life situations that are popping up, which can make for a mix of flirty moments, but also pretty intense moments as well. Then when we get to the 21st, all the way up till the 24th, ambitious vibes will hit its peak and be very present, intersecting mental energy, a smidge of good luck, and a large amount of solitude energy. Again, with this week having some bite to it, we really are going to want some space to ourselves, and it's going to be hard to manage that. Because although this solitude energy is not leaving us this week, we'll have to find a way to roll with the punches. Especially because over the weekend there are some social alignments that are going on. Some of it's harsh and some of it's constructive, and hopefully the one that happens on Sunday with the Sun and Saturn really grounds things and grounds us, so we're feeling less off kilter than we have over these last 7 days. So yeah, we're in for another big week. Let's look at these next bunch of days and see what we can expect. As a reminder, don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. There's a link in the description box below. So from the 18th to the 21st, we have a plethora of Mercury transits. Monday brings in a harmonious transit with Mercury and Jupiter, which can aid in feeling motivated. Of course, since this is part of the Mercury retrograde cycle, the last time we saw this was on December 7th, and so it's going to bring up themes regarding this. So we could find ourselves going back to some really pleasant conversations through an energy like this, or moments where we had certain epiphanies we might have had about a situation, other high-minded ideals that we might have been thinking about on that day. And the cool thing with this energy is it has a really nice social tone to it, although there's some mixed bag stuff going on. It's hearing back from people that we really do want to engage with, which can be really uplifting to our spirits. This alignment will come up again on January 19th of 2024 when Mercury is in its post shadow. And hopefully we're feeling the good vibes of this energy, because by the time we get to the 19th, we've got some harder stuff. Also, by the 20th, we have some harder stuff going on with Mercury. On the 19th, Mercury is going to connect with Uranus in a Sesquiquadrate, leading to unusual conversations and scenarios where things just get really peculiar and just odd overall. One thing to know, we do have 3 connections to Uranus this week with the other planets, with the personal planets, that may cause things to feel very sudden and subject to change. I mean, Mars and Venus are going to connect with Uranus throughout this week as well, so this is where some of this stuff is a little bit shaky along with everything else going on. But with this Uranus stuff, we might feel mentally wired, and for that reason, we may feel a little bit more nervous than normal, because this energy is very high octane and can have our minds in overactive mode. And also for this reason, we might feel more easily agitated than normal because of the revved upness of this energy. This tends to bring in unexpected communication as well. Unlike the Mercury-Jupiter situation, this is not the communication that we're welcoming. It's from those we really don't want to communicate with. Also, an alignment like this tends to bring out situations where people are saying things for shock value, just to see if they can get a reaction. The last time we had this energy was on December 7th, so this is going to bring up those types of scenarios that I just mentioned. And then we'll get our final hit of this on January 17th of 2024. By the time we get to the 20th, Mercury connects with Venus in a hard alignment, which could bring up aggravating situations when it comes down to love life scenarios. So there may be some frustration when it comes down to our communication and our romantic situations. Sometimes this is due to a lack of response. Sometimes this is due to superficial communication, like situations where someone is not going as deep as they should and almost coming across like breadcrumbing. We will see this one pop up again on December 26th in the form of a semi-sextile. The 21st is a concentrated day of planetary transits. We kick Thursday off with another Mercury retrograde transit, and this one's more constructive than the last two I was speaking of. So with a day like today with two hard transits, and after that last 48 hours of those hard Mercury retrograde transits, this one is welcoming and hopefully stabilizes things. Anytime Mercury and Saturn get into a sextile, it helps us think of ways to get more consistent in our lives. It helps us look at the long-term plans that we'd like to create for ourselves. It is really grounding in terms of our mental capacity, helps us use sound judgment, practice responsible behavior, and focusing on being socially constructive. So this one might have us revisit themes when Mercury was in pre-shadow on December 2nd regarding the things that I just mentioned. So if you had some constructive stuff going on or were thinking of a long-term goal for yourself, this may be a time where you're revisiting it and you're reevaluating how you want to go about this, or revisiting conversations that you had with someone that was on a productive level, and even contractual things, because when we're dealing with Mercury and Saturn together, it has a lot to do with making things more concrete and cementing things. So there may have been something contractual that ends up going as planned. The next time we'll see this will be when Mercury's in the post shadow on January 18th of 2024. That same day, we have some interesting stuff going on with Venus, Mars, and Uranus. Venus is going to connect with Mars and Uranus in a complex way, while Mars is connecting to Uranus in a complex way. So we've got some interesting combinations going on, leading to a day where things might feel more enunciated than typical when it comes down to problematic scenarios in our love lives and financial matters. With energy like this, we need to be really aware of impulsivity and temperamental issues in our romantic scenarios. On a temperamental level, we need to be mindful of reacting out of perceived slights in relationships, because they can backfire with the Venus-Mars situation. A vibe like this tends to rev up more toxicity in relationships that are already unconstructive. So if you're dealing with a situation that's already problematic, this could really rev things up more so than typical. On top of that, the connections to Uranus can create moments where we do things all of a sudden that we shouldn't be doing. In other words, this Uranus situation can rev up Mars-Venus themes, leading to impulsivity and reckless behavior when it comes down to taking action with the Mars stuff and with our relationship stuff. Also, impulsive spending as well. And the way Uranus is connecting to these planets, we need to be aware of suddenly feeling the need to break free because we're craving novelty, whether that's within our love lives, whether that's within financial situations, and any other areas of our lives where we're really craving action right now. This is really not the best time to take action. I know, don't stop your life because these planets are acting erratically or Mercury's in retrograde. I always say that. At the same time, we want to make sure we're taking action on things when we're feeling more grounded and less out of a place of emotion, impulsivity, or our temper. So hopefully the Mercury retrograde alignment with Saturn really saves the day with this one. Speaking of Saturnian things, the sun is going into Capricorn on the 22nd. Happy birthday, Capricorns, and happy winter solstice or summer solstice if you're in the southern hemisphere. As we leave Sagittarius' risk-taking and enthusiastic tone, we shift to a more serious and rational method of doing things. And we also understand the importance of boosting our ego on concrete things. Because the sun is associated with self-assurance and our ego and self-expression, we gain a considerable amount of confidence through outward security while it's in Capricorn. We get this enunciated need to buckle down and take our life goals really seriously under this energy. So it's a phase where we become more focused on our objectives and how we could be more effective in our lives. So this really gives us the urge to build something worthwhile. It could be a time when we're really thinking about getting our priorities straight and taking responsible action on the stuff that we need to get going in our lives. Coming back to outward security, energy like this gives us a nice nice push needed to ensure we're setting systems in place in order to obtain those things, along with status to boost our ego and confidence. This by no means is saying that we have to get money hungry or status hungry or materialistic in any way, but Capricorn energy is about taking practical steps to ensure that we can do those things or buy those things when necessary. Emotional security is absolutely important, but this is also another form of security that's essential for us. And especially with this being an earth sign, resources tend to be the focal point in this pairing. Another thing that comes with this energy is having a realistic outlook on our long-term goals, so that way we're committing ourselves to the right things. Capricorn is about using our time prudently. Some of this is because Capricorn is about mastery, but also it's about not wasting our time on things that bring no return on investment. So this could be a time to reevaluate what we might have been wasting our energy on. A lot of the time, it looks like going after goals that aren't aligned with your life path. And doing that doesn't allow us to get to our main objective. Also, this distracts us from the thing that we should be mastering. Especially with that Mercury being retrograde in Capricorn for a few more hours, because it's shifting into Sagittarius on this day, we can really be thinking about how we can start pouring our energy into something that's going to give us a return on investment, and ultimately looking at what we could be mastering that's going to put us in a position to create something that's long lasting and stands the test of time. Considering all these things, another mood that this energy puts us in is being more cautious than normal. And not in the scorpionic sense, but in the sense of not rushing into things, not acting on impulse. That way we're not finding ourselves in a bind due to poor judgment. So this could be a period of really just trying to understand and evaluate our risks versus what may potentially be a reward. However, this is kind of a neutral expression. It's a neutral expression because it can go the other way and become a lower expression where we don't take action because we're afraid of the risk. But at the same time, sometimes we need to take that time, be patient, and really reevaluate a situation, especially with all this chaotic energy that's going on currently with the transits. Socially, a vibe like this is about craving quality over quantity. So it's not to say that we won't be social, it's not to say that we won't interact with others, because that never stops and most certainly happens, but this energy tends to be more inwardly focused. And if it is going to spend its time with people, it needs to be about spending time with those who bring value to our lives. So having more meaningful interactions with others is going to be more vital at this time. And of course, that leads me to the lower expression, as there is anytime a planet changes signs. And with this, coming back to that overly cautious thing, we need to be aware of limiting ourselves. There are times where, sometimes you can't really sit there and evaluate things. Sometimes we don't have the luxury to do that. Of course, always find a happy medium. Obviously, don't rush in unless it's something where it's like, okay, I have to take immediate action right now. But you definitely don't want to find yourself in a position where you completely freeze up and suffer from moments where there's self-imposed limitations going on. Due to the cold nature of this, there may be moments where there's low empathy. There may be moments where people feel like they're minimizing more so than usual. And minimizing other people's feelings, minimizing your own feelings, and situations that require us to understand the emotional magnitude of something. Also, due to the nature of Capricorn, we may experience more gloominess than normal when it comes down to our moods. There tends to be a very numb or just overall doom feel to this energy at times when it is in its lower expression. So we need to be mindful of that and try to find ways to uplift our spirits the best way possible. And speaking of that, on that same day, the sun's going to make a semi-sextile with Pluto. And this can bring in a gloomy tone, but it can also bring in a tone where we're dealing with dominant types. So this could be a day where we feel like we're dealing with those who are power struggling, those who want to seem more important than other people, and have polarizing personalities overall. On that same day, around 10:26 p.m. Pacific, Mercury is going to shift back into Sagittarius. Mercury is only 7 days away from going direct, and before it does, it's going to shift back into the sign of the Archer to wrap things up that happened at the end of November. So through this portion, we'll revisit themes from November 25th, going all the way up until December 1st. Just hours before Mercury went into Capricorn. So through this period, we'll revisit themes that involve Sagittarius things that need restructuring in our lives. If we weren't paying attention to the details of something, this could be a time of going over those things, which could be contracts, memberships, any other types of sign-ups, school projects, work projects. Just overall something that we might have skimmed. We'll also reevaluate situations where there might have been carelessness, neglecting obligations, intellectual arrogance, speaking in a way that's overly opinionated, expressing overly strong viewpoints, which is pretty much the same thing. but overall where we're lacking a lot of structure. This portion of the retrograde would affect the mutable signs more than anything, and the late degrees of the mutable signs. So this would be Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces between 23 to 29 degrees of these signs. Mercury is going to go direct on New Year's Day, then exit its post shadow on the 20th of January. As we get to Saturday and Sunday, we have some interesting transits going on that are not like the other. Almost in the same tune as the Mercury retrograde we've had, with it being in Capricorn and Sagittarius. It's like experiencing two different retrogrades altogether because those signs are not similar whatsoever. But as we get to Saturday, we have more of a Jupiterian Mars theme going on. Mars is going to make a Sesquiquadrate with Jupiter, which could really rev up impulsivity. So we need to be mindful of acting recklessly during this day. One thing to note though, this can be a very enjoyable transit because it does promote having an upbeat tone, being optimistic about everything, going out, being adventurous, being communicative, being social. Like I said, those solitude vibes, they were on the graph. At the same time, this one kind of cancels it out a little bit. It's a little hard to just take time to yourself because there's really a ramped up need to be social in an energy like this. At the same time, we need to be really aware of burning ourselves out because this is a high octane sort of energy. So we need to be aware of overbooking ourselves. We need to be aware of overpromising and under-delivering. We need to be aware of acting recklessly because we're bored and we just want some action. We really need to be aware of stepping on other people's toes in an energy like this. And arrogance is another one that happens within this because it does bring in a tone of unjustified confidence. Also with this, because it's Mars and Jupiter, we have to be aware of blowing things out of proportion. So temperament-wise, there may be moments where we feel more agitated than normal, and it may be something so small, but we end up making it really big, leading to an argumentative tone. And anytime I see Mars-Jupiter hard transits, it could be a fun time, it could be a great time, but it also has that bar fight energy to it. So try to do the best you can to stay grounded and channel the more positive qualities of this energy. Hopefully the energy that's going on Sunday grounds this completely. Sunday brings in a strong Capricornian tone with the sun making a sextile to Saturn. And this is where we get justified levels of confidence. This is an energy where we build up our self-assurance through tangible things. So this could put us in a mood to ground ourselves. This could put us in a mood to be more stabilized, and it can really help quell those feelings of being off kilter. An energy like this is excellent for giving yourself a pat on the back for a job well done, or receiving a pat on the back from a job well done if you have an employer or you've been putting some work out there into the world, maybe in terms of freelance, any other type of self-employment or your business. An energy like this helps us recognize the skills that we built up through building proper credentials, through stepping stone jobs, mainly because of the Saturn feel of time and patience in order to achieve mastery, or it could have been through projects and any type of other educational things that helped us gain official proof of our knowledge. But overall, an energy like this can really help us feel good about ourselves, about the hard work we've put in all throughout the year. So yeah, what another interesting week. Hopefully you guys are able to find constructive ways to alleviate your stress and are able to push through some of these energies. Anyway, I hope you all have the best week ever. Later, and see you in the next episode.